Every city has its stories, a kind you tell in hushed tones around campfires, warning the next generation. But some stories are more than just stories. Some legends are written not in ink, but in blood. This is the tale of a place of serene beauty that hides a secret of unimaginable terror. A place where 8 young souls, full of life, made a single foolish mistake. And one by one, they were claimed by a force older than the city itself. This is the tale of a place of serene beauty that hides a secret of unimaginable terror. It's the curse of the Eight Immortals Lake. To truly understand the terror of this story, we must first travel back centuries to the very roots of Chinese folklore. Our tale begins not with a curse, but with a blessing. In the rich tapestry of Taoist mythology, few figures are as revered as the 8 Immortals. They were not distant gods on a mountain, but 8 extraordinary human beings who achieved immortality through spiritual cultivation, alchemy, and profound wisdom. Each represented a different facet of life and possessed a magical tool that granted them divine power. There was Lu Dongbin, the scholar with his demon-slaying sword, Zhongli Quan with his feather fan that could revive the dead, Lan Seihei, the ambiguous, flute-playing immortal who walked on clouds, and the others, each with their own symbol: the bamboo drum, the lotus flower, the gourd, the castanets, and the flower basket. They were symbols of longevity, prosperity, and the harmony between humanity and the natural world. They roamed the earth, righting wrongs and rewarding the virtuous. Where they walked, miracles blossomed, and it was said that places they blessed would be protected by their essence for eternity. But a blessing can easily become a curse for those who come with a foul heart. Locals would tell stories that sometimes, on moonlit nights, you could see the shadows of 8 figures gliding over the water's surface. A whisper in the reeds that sounded not like an invitation, but a warning. It was not an evil force, but a protective one. A force that demanded respect. And it was to this place, shrouded in ancient legends and spiritual power, that a group of 8 friends ventured on that fateful weekend. Young, modern, skeptical. For them, it was just another pin on the map for a stunning selfie. They had no idea that their journey for fun would become a permanent entry in the annals of the city's darkest legends. The group that arrived at the 8 Immortals Lake that weekend consisted of 8 university friends. Let's give them the names they deserve in this story. There was Alex, a charismatic engineering student, the natural leader who organized the trip. His girlfriend, Mia, a sensitive art student, was the group's photographer, always seeing beauty in the world. Then there was Ben, a pragmatic biology major and the group's skeptic, who openly mocked the idea of curses and spirits. The others were Chris, the joker, Sarah, the thoughtful literature student, David, the quiet one, Emma, the adventurous athlete, and Jake, the easygoing peacemaker. They were bound by a strong friendship and a shared love for exploring hidden corners of the city. For the first day, the trip was perfect. They set up camp, swam in the crystal clear water, and shared stories by the campfire. As the night fell, Ben, fueled by bravado, decided to test the local legends. He waded into a restricted part of the lake and pulled a smooth, dark stone from the water. "A trophy from the gods," he declared, pocketing it despite Mia's protests. That's when the mood shifted. The air grew cold. A strange silence fell over the forest, and Mia's camera, for no reason, began to malfunction. Back in the city, a strange tension followed the friends. It started with small things. Phones dying with full charge. The constant feeling of being watched. But the true horror began with Alex. A week after their return, he was crossing a quiet, well-lit street at night. A car, with no license plates and its headlights off, came out of nowhere. Witnesses said it seemed to aim directly for him. The official report called it a tragic hit-and-run, but for the remaining 7, it was no accident. It was the first strike of the curse. The first strike of the curse was just the beginning. Panic, cold and sharp, began to spread among the 7 remaining friends. They tried to convince themselves it was a coincidence, a terrible series of bad luck. But in their hearts, they knew the truth. The thing they had mocked was real, and it was hunting them. The second death struck with even more chilling precision. It targeted Ben, the group's skeptic, the one who had proudly pocketed the stone from the lake. He was found in his locked apartment, a place that should have been a sanctuary. The official cause of death was a sudden, massive heart attack. The media reported it as a rare medical tragedy. But how does a healthy 22-year-old biology student, an athlete with no prior conditions, simply drop dead? The investigation found no signs of foul play, no toxins in his system. The only anomaly was on his desk. The small, smooth stone from the lake was placed neatly in the center, as if put on display by an unseen hand. When asked, his roommates swore they had not touched it. This was the moment hope died. The curse was no longer a shadow. It was a presence in their homes. The remaining 6 friends were now bound, not by friendship, but by sheer, primal terror. They tried to run. Some moved apartments. Others left the city entirely, seeking distance from the source. They visited temples, seeking blessings from priests who listened to their frantic stories with skeptical pity. They tried to get rid of the stone, throwing it into a river, burying it in a park, but it would always reappear, in a jacket pocket, on a bedside table, a silent, inescapable verdict. Their attempts at escape were futile. The curse was not tied to a location. It was tied to them. Sarah, the quiet literature student, was the third to fall. She drowned during a crowded afternoon session at a public swimming pool. Dozens of people were in the water, yet no one saw her struggle. Lifeguards only noticed her still form at the bottom of the pool. It was as if an invisible force had held her down. The official report called it a shallow water blackout. Her friends called it a supernatural execution. Then it was Chris's turn. The group's joker, whose laughter had once filled the campsite, died in a house fire. The blaze was ferocious, but bizarrely contained. It started in his kitchen, and defying all logic, completely incinerated only his room. The rest of the apartment building remained virtually untouched, the fire stopping at the threshold of his doorway, as if meeting an invisible wall. To the fire marshal, it was an unexplained anomaly. To his friends, it was a message. There is no hiding place. One by one, the others followed. David, Emma, Jake, Mia. Their deaths were a catalog of tragic, seemingly random events. A fatal fall down a flight of stairs. A sudden, aggressive illness that doctors couldn't diagnose. A car accident on an empty road. To the outside world, it was a devastating string of misfortune. But to anyone who knew the full story, it was a pattern, a deliberate, intelligent, and merciless unraveling of 8 lives. So what are we to make of this? 8 lives extinguished in a chain of impossible coincidences. The official records have 8 separate, tragic endings. But when you connect the dots, a terrifying picture emerges. This was not random chance. This was a sequence, a pattern that points to a force that defies our understanding of the natural world. Let's consider the nature of the curse itself. In many ancient cultures, a curse is not merely a punishment. It is a restoration of balance. The 8 immortals themselves are not deities of vengeance, but symbols of harmony between humanity and the cosmos. By desecrating their sacred space, the group didn't just break a rule. They severed a delicate balance. The curse, then, can be seen as a brutal, cosmic rebalancing. It was not personal. It was procedural. A law of nature as cold and immutable as gravity. This theory is supported by the methodical nature of the deaths. There was no rage, no chaos. It was a systematic dismantling. The curse first removed the leader, Alex, establishing its power. It then targeted the instigator, Ben, making its connection to the lake undeniable. From there, it proceeded with a terrifying efficiency, eliminating the others one by one, leaving behind a trail of evidence that was just plausible enough for authorities to dismiss, yet unmistakably linked for those who knew the truth. But what about the stone? Its recurring appearance is a central piece of the puzzle. It was not just a souvenir. It became a token of the curse, a physical anchor tethering the spiritual punishment to the physical world. Its reappearance was a signature, a way for the force to assert that there was no escape, no matter how far they ran or where they hid. It was the proof that the connection had been made and could not be broken. Could there be a scientific explanation? Some researchers have pointed to the power of collective guilt and psychological suggestion, the so-called nocebo effect, where the belief in a curse can manifest in physical symptoms. But can guilt stop a healthy heart? Can fear cause a fire to burn with such unnatural precision? The scale and specificity of these events push far beyond the limits of psychosomatic phenomena. The lake remains to this day. It is still a place of serene beauty, a popular spot for tourists who are oblivious to its dark history. Some locals still avoid it, adhering to the old ways, understanding that some places hold a memory and a power that modern science cannot quantify. The story of the 8 friends has faded into the city's tapestry of urban legends, a ghost story told to thrill and warn. But for those who delve deeper, it stands as a stark reminder that the world is older and stranger than we know. That there are boundaries woven into the fabric of reality, and crossing them can have consequences far beyond our comprehension. The curse of the 8 Immortals Lake is more than a story. It is a warning, forever echoing in the silent depths of the water. But the story doesn't end there. In the years that followed, several investigators and paranormal researchers tried to piece together the final days of the other victims. What they found only deepens the mystery. Take Mia, the photographer. After the deaths of Alex and Ben, she became obsessed with the photos from that fateful trip. She spent days enlarging every image, convinced she would find a clue. In one photo, a blurred figure stands deep in the woods behind their camp, a figure no one remembers seeing. In another, a strange, unnatural light hovers over the lake's surface. A week before her death, she told a friend that the figures in the photos were moving. She was found dead from an apparent suicide, but those who knew her swear she would never have taken her own life. Her laptop and camera were never found. Then there was David, the quiet one. He was the first to suggest they return to the lake and apologize, to perform a ritual of appeasement. The others were too terrified to agree. He began researching the 8 Immortals in depth, trying to understand the specific rules they had broken. His notes, recovered after his death, were filled with sketches of the 8 figures and a recurring phrase: "The balance must be restored." He died in a hit and run, just like Alex. But on the anniversary of their trip to the lake, Emma, the athlete, fought the curse the longest. She moved to another country, changed her name, and tried to start a new life. For 2 years, she believed she was safe. Then the stone reappeared, this time placed on her yoga mat in her locked apartment. She died days later during a routine training session from a sudden cerebral aneurysm. Her doctor stated he had never seen a healthier patient. What about the lake itself? Geological surveys of the area have revealed nothing unusual. However, local historians point to older, pre-immortal legends about the site. It was once known as a thin place, a location where the barrier between the spirit world and our world is fragile. The 8 Immortals, in this interpretation, aren't just myths. They are the guardians of this veil. The friends didn't just offend spirits, they potentially weakened a cosmic barrier. Modern paranormal investigators who have visited the lake report equipment failures, feelings of being watched, and electronic voice phenomena, whispers that seem to warn them to leave. Some have even captured photographic evidence of the same shadowy figures that Mia saw in her photos. So where does this leave us? With more questions than answers. Was this a sentient, punishing curse? Or was it an automatic, spiritual immune response to a profound violation? The systematic nature of the events, the recurring symbol of the stone, and the historical context of the location all point to something far more complex than a simple ghost story. The curse of the Eight Immortals Lake endures because it challenges our worldview. It suggests that the universe operates on rules we are only dimly aware of, and that ignorance of those rules is no protection. The Eight Friends are a permanent part of the lake's legacy, a human sacrifice to a principle we have long forgotten. That some places demand respect, not out of superstition, but out of a fundamental law of existence.